Welcome to the Organic MD podcast with Dr. Damon Miller. I'm Carlisle Koash. How are you doing today, Dr. Miller?
I'm doing well today. I'm very grateful. Just we're in a time where we get to spend more time listening to podcasts. I'm grateful grateful for that, and just making our offering here. Again, today we're talking. This is the fourth of what will eventually be 8 podcasts on Organic MD related to the Better Eye Health program. That's the program we do, helping people with serious eye diseases, things like macular degeneration, retinitis pigmentosa, Stargardt disease. We have a very effective program for stopping the progression of those diseases and reversing, to some extent, allowing people to get vision back that they've lost. So today I wanted to talk about how just the notion of how your diet, not supplements, but what you choose to eat, how you eat, how important that is. In fact, I think the title we're going to use for this podcast is that the benefits that come from improving your diet can go beyond your wildest dreams. So
I agree. Well, we talked last time about just, my dad's making pretty much a diet choice. I mean, he did other things, but the main shift was what I eat, how I eat. It doesn't mean that I can't at times have little treats, but over, gosh, I don't know when he made that change, but for the next 30 plus years, he kept to it. And yeah, there were times when he might stray from that, and have a meal that was a little more heavy or had a little more cheese or a little more something in it.
That's okay.
And then he would, he'd suffer for it a little and go, well, it was okay. It was worth, I don't get to eat that often. I'm suffering at the other side of it. But for the most part, you've even talked about this many times for years in terms of that, our health can start reflecting the kinds of foods that we're eating, the things that we're putting into our system. Well, it's like the body works with what we give it to some extent. And so if you're giving it kind of not so great things, then it's going to do its best to process those things, but your health may take a hit for that.
Yeah. Well, and I know, when you told that story before, your dad was kind of motivated. He was told that they're just going to do a surgery, take out his gallbladder, and he was not wanting surgery. And so he accepted he said, well, the doctor said you could lose some weight, but I'll just take your gallbladder out. And Dad goes, no, I think I'll try the other one first. And, that's the basic philosophy here at Organic MD is that, when you've got multiple things to try, go with the safe ones. Go with the ones that are safe, easy, simple, cheap, maybe some work and motivation and effort on your part. But, I can't tell you how many people I've seen go into what was supposed to be a pretty simple surgery and come out either very scarred or dead. So surgery isn't, if there's an option to surgery, you want to exhaust those options. But this is true even if you have an eye disease. Again, we're talking about degenerative eye disease, retinal disease, macular degeneration, things like that. Will changing your diet reverse those diseases? Not clear. There are many things you can do to take care of your health. I think it's worth mentioning, just in terms of some of the science behind this, that, we're talking here when we talk about macular degeneration, Stargardt disease, retinitis pigmentosa. We're talking about problems that almost always have an underlying abnormal gene that predisposes you. Now, I choose those words very carefully. Predisposes you. Having an abnormal gene doesn't mean that disease is your destiny. There's a whole other thing we're going to be talking about in a later podcast called epigenetics. That's the information that sits on top of the gene. The gene is simply the strand of DNA. that holds the information. But then wrapped all around that are these complexes of proteins and histones and all kinds of things that bundle it up and control which parts of the gene get expressed. And so whether or not a gene gets expressed is as important, maybe more important than whether you have the gene. So, macular degeneration is a perfect example of that. Most common form of that, age-related macular degeneration, ARMD. Age-related macular degeneration often doesn't show up until the 6th, 7th, 8th decade of life, but everybody who's got it has a gene they've had from birth. So somehow their body has been keeping that gene suppressed, and even if there was some damage being done by this abnormal gene, the body was healing the damage faster than it could show up. And when I talk about the science of it, what's really interesting is, of course, everybody, now that they understand that there is such a thing as epigenetics and how important that is, everybody's looking for what's the drug we can give you to suppress a gene? How are we going to develop that? So there's been a lot of work on epigenetics, and what's curious to me about the work is that so far there have been no drugs, 0 drugs, the big bagel, nada, nothing, zip, 0. And yet,
I think we got.
Okay, I made my point, right? Okay,
I think so.
Okay, yeah, no drug. But what this research has shown is that changes in diet and lifestyle, in other words, doing the things that we know to do to make you healthier, that will change the epigenetics. And so, we have a program of things we do. Usually we're working with people at the later stages of the disease. They've already got a lot of damage, and you need to be doing a lot to regenerate and rebuild these cells in the eye. I mean, they're the most complex tissues in the whole human body. But when we are talking with the family members, they go, well, gee, if my dad has this, I must have the gene for this, or maybe I do, or I did a test and I found I had the gene. What am I going to do so I don't have the same problems my dad has when I get to be his age? Well, you eat well, take care of yourself, change your lifestyles, don't smoke, don't drink too much alcohol, get a good sleep, de-stress, basic things. We consider, though, that working with your diet is so important that I talk about this program called the Better Eye Health Program. We have a lot of things we do. One of the things that we've added many, many years ago, almost 18 years ago, we added a module in the program. It's included in the program called the Healthy Eating Workshop. And it's basically to work with you to find what is the best diet for you. What's the diet that's going to energize you, keep you healthy, keep your cholesterol down, do all those things. And so, when you start working with a good diet, it solves all kinds of problems. People find that their blood pressure is normal, their glaucoma goes away, their blood sugars normalize, their skin gets better, their joints feel better. I mean, it's just on and on and on. You can't believe what a difference it makes when you start eating a healthier diet. And what's a healthy diet for one person may not be a healthy diet for another. So there is some individualization that has to be done. But yeah, you gotta be eating well. And it goes back. I'll kind of just say, the old timey notion that you are what you eat. How often have you heard that? I mean, I've heard that my entire life. You are what you eat. And boy, is that ever true?
I think you've said that your grandmother would say, like, the fastest way to get in a box is to eat out of a box, or something like that.
That was actually who was it who said that? Yeah, that was. I'll think of her name in a second here. Adele Davis. Adele Davis. She used to be kind of the diet guru back in the 50s and 60s, and that was something that she said, that the fastest way to end up at an early age in a box is to eat out of a box. And so but there's a lot more wisdom where that comes from, not from Adele Davis necessarily, but the kinds of the reason. I'll wax philosophic here for just a second. The reason that we're all here today isn't because of modern medicine. We're here because we had grandmothers and ancestors who had figured out how to keep the family and the community healthy. That there's a whole range of wisdom that's sort of being lost of what does it mean to be healthy? What do you do? What's the lifestyle you live to be healthy? And a lot of that information is really valuable. So that's another thing we do here at Organic MD, and one of the things we're trying to include more in the podcasts and the webpage is some of that ancient wisdom. Um, but the most basic of it is you are what you eat. So,
and I think being curious of the things that you're eating, being curious what's in this product. If I'm eating something that's a processed product, what's in it, what are the ingredients, where did they come from? Even just asking those basic questions and thinking, oh, is that gonna, especially if I'm dealing with an illness and I'm about to order something or about to make something, or I'm at the supermarket, I'm going to pull something off the shelf. Will this help me in this illness that I'm relating to, or in this issue that I'm relating to? And yeah, you might have to put the box back. And I mean, I go to Trader Joe's, and there are plenty of things at Trader Joe's that they speak to me while I'm in the aisle. I know that they're talking to me. The dark chocolate peanut butter cups talk. When you walk by, they're, wait, come back and get some from you. You need me. I'm really good. And they're addicted. They're so good. You want to eat the entire container. And I also know that I have to be very sparing, or I'll eat them all the time. And I know that chocolate, sure, there's an aspect of chocolate that's good for you. And
yeah,
sure, peanut butter, I guess, is okay. But those things have so much stuff in them.
Yeah, well, I didn't know you were a peanut butter whisperer. That's good.
Sometimes the maple leaf cookies also they have a strong voice. So, they taste good. These things taste good. They're designed to taste good. I mean, at another time, I'm sure we can talk all about the fat, sugar conversation.
Fat, salt, sugar. Yeah.
Fat, salt, sugar. But I think just in general, again, this mirrors back to the stuff we've been talking about, which is, for these things to change, you have to engage more and question and be mindful. And maybe you don't have 3 sugars in your coffee. Just some things that you shift, and in order to maintain that wellness. Because I mean, there are, of course, the rare examples, George Burns, right? Smoked cigars his whole life. And I think, probably ate pretty rich foods and drank, and, he was fine. But that's not everybody. So good.
Yeah.
Good on George Burns that was what he could do until he was 110 or whatever. Great for him. But that doesn't necessarily apply to everybody. And so, we have to find our path.
Yeah. And, there's, one final thing just about what comes when you eat well and make good choices about your food. And it's not necessarily about peanut butter and chocolate and maple leaf cookies, but the techniques that are used in modern industrial agriculture end up leaving a lot of toxins in our food. So one of the next podcasts we're going to be doing is just talking about toxicity. And a lot of the toxicity that gets into our body comes through our food. So you do yourself a great service by eating food that's clean. And how do you figure that out? But also, George Burns, he was a pretty functional guy up until the end. And, so we're talking here about the value of a good diet in the context of trying to stop and reverse serious disease. But the thing that keeps people on a good diet. So, I'm sure if we could talk to your dad, he would confirm this, that he had a very specific reason that he changed his diet. He had a problem and they were saying he needed surgery and he didn't want surgery. So that motivated him. He got his diet changed, but he kept it up for the rest of his life. And probably the reason he kept it up for the rest of his life is that he liked the way he felt eating that way.
For sure. Yeah. And he could still eat. I mean, it's not like he was eating sand and cardboard the rest of his life. I mean, he ate well and good meals, and it's just, he also knew, I need to exercise more. I don't think he was doing that as much. And that actually led him into he loved walking and hiking places, and so
Yeah.
he did more of that, and he loved that. That was one of his great joys.
Yeah. Well,
So,
feeling good becomes kind of your new addiction when you go down that path. I mean, I've had more people than I can think of, forgetting the eye disease for a second, just talking about all the ways that eating well helps other things. People will have certain problems. One of the things we work with everyone is, what are you eating? What's your diet? What's the diet that's going to serve you? And people will come back after some months or a year or 2 years and go, yeah, I'm just not doing so well. And I go, well, when was the last time you think you felt really well? And they go, oh, when I was doing everything you told me to do, eating that diet that you told me to eat. And so, they come back and they pay me to tell them, well, why don't you eat that diet again? Why don't you go back on that again? It's sometimes it's that simple. Yeah. Okay. Well,
great.
any other things you think we need to touch on today, or think we're good?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we're good. So yeah, eat well. You are what you eat, and it can reverse even serious disease and fend off even more serious disease. So we'll come back. We'll talk about toxicity the next time. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thanks for joining us, and check out the website and the links, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah. And like us, and subscribe to the podcast. Do those things. It helps get the word out.